Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to the Compass Daily. My name is Zach Moody. We're so glad you're here with us today. Hey, we have an awesome message from Milam, an awesome worship. But before we do that, we just want to tell you, God is doing something awesome in the midst of this next generation. He is raising up leaders and kingdom workers, and your generosity is a part of that. If you want to continue to be a part of what God's doing here, we have 3 ways that we can give. The first is our Compass website, and that's compass.church/give. The next is we all have an iPhone or an Android, whatever it is. Go to the App Store. We have an app called the Compass Church app. Search it, find it, download it, and then you can give via that. And then finally, you can text Compass Church to 77977. Hey, please welcome our friends as we go into worship, and then Milam.
River of gladness, fill my soul. Jesus, you're my greatest hope. God, I know. I see the light, I see the lightning. I hear your voice inside the cracking thunder singing. Nothing stands between us, oh nothing stands between us but love now. Nothing stands between us, oh nothing stands between us but love. River of gladness, take control. There's a cup of joy for every taste of sorrow. I see the light, I see the lightning. I hear your voice inside the cracking thunder singing. Nothing stands between us, oh nothing stands between us but love now. Nothing stands between us, oh nothing stands between us but love. Have I tried to scale your walls in vain? To cross your seas I pushed against your waves. And what for all the miles have you to say? Were you there beside me this whole way? You always find me in between the thunder and the lightning. You always find me in between the thunder and the lightning. You always find me in between the thunder and the lightning. Nothing stands between us, oh nothing stands between us but love now. Nothing stands between us, oh nothing stands between us but love.
Good morning, Compass. I just want to talk to you a little bit today about the book of Ruth. Now, Ruth is a book that is in the Old Testament, and it is during the time of the Judges. So it tells us a little bit of a story of a couple of women. Now, there's guys in it, but 3 of them are dead. So, it's not really about the guys, but it's about these ladies and how God kind of takes care of them when they're thinking they have nothing left. So the main character in this book obviously is Ruth because her name is in it, but I kind of want to focus on her mother-in-law. So her mother-in-law, her name is Naomi, and she and her husband were living in Bethlehem, and that's their hometown, that's their family's town, but there was like a famine in the land, and so they moved out of state, basically, to the city of Moab, or the country of Moab. And they moved there, and they took their 2 sons, and they started farming there, and, things were good for a while, but then Naomi's husband died. And her boys grew up, but that was fine because her boys could take care of her. Her boys grew up and they got married. And they married 2 ladies. They each married a lady. One married a lady named Ruth, and one married another lady named Orpah. So they married these ladies and lived in the land for about 10 years. And then both of those sons died. Now, at this time, Naomi was just crushed. Well, her husband had died and her 2 sons. And in our culture, that's dramatic and terrible, but definitely in their culture, if you didn't have a man to take care of you, if you didn't have a man who owned the land to take care of you and keep you in your old age, like you were destitute, you didn't have a lot of great options. You were a beggar, you were poor, or you had really unsavory options. And so this is the position that Naomi is in when her husband has died and now her 2 sons have died. So she tells her daughters, hey, I'm going to go back to Bethlehem, where my family is, my hometown. I'm going to go back there. I've heard the famine is over, and I'm just going to go hang out with my family and see what I can do there. The girls say, we're going to go with you. And as they're on their way, she goes, you know what? You guys are young. Even if I were to get married tonight and have more sons, you're not going to wait 15 to 20 years to marry them, 30 years, whatever. She goes, you're young. Go back home to your families. Go get married and have a great life. But for me, God has taken everything away from me. God basically has just ruined my life. And I'm really bitter, and I don't have anything to offer you. Well, Orpah actually goes back home, and she was like, all right, there's tears, there's crying, there's hugging. But Ruth says these famous lines that you probably hear in weddings all the time, but really it wasn't in a wedding. It was from a daughter-in-law to her mother-in-law, which I think probably says a lot about Naomi and how she loved these girls. And Ruth says, hey, don't make me go away from you. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die. And when Naomi realized that Ruth was not going to go back to her family, she was like, all right, come with me. So the ladies made the trip back to Bethlehem. Well, when they arrived into town, it's a small town. Everybody was so excited. All the ladies are like, oh, Naomi is back. Naomi is back. And Naomi looked at these ladies and she said, don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara, which means bitter, because my life is bitter. My life is horrible. God has wreaked his wrath against me, and I have nothing good in my life. And so she was very bitter and angry and probably just at a loss. Her past 10 years had been pretty miserable, and she felt like God had completely abandoned her. And I don't know, we're in 2020, and you may be feeling a little bit of that today. You may be feeling like people around me are getting sick. Maybe you've had a family member who has died from COVID. Maybe you've lost your job. Maybe the relationships in your life, your spouse, your children, are not going well. Maybe school is just really overwhelming right now. I don't know where you are, but you may be feeling a little bit bitter, like Naomi was. She was really, really unhappy. And she was really in a place where she felt God had abandoned her. So I don't know, maybe you're there. Maybe you're in this place. But I want to encourage you because her story doesn't stop here. She tells Ruth, hey, go out into the field and glean. Because there's this thing where you can glean, which is going in the field after the harvesters and picking up the scraps. So she said, hey, go take a basket, go out, find a field, pick up some scraps, and bring back whatever wheat, barley, grain, whatever you can find, and bring it, and we'll live on that. So that's what Ruth did. Well, while Ruth was out gleaning in a field, the owner of the field comes and says, hey, to his workers, who's that lady out here, this young woman gleaning? And they said, oh, that's Naomi's daughter-in-law who came back with her from Moab. And this guy, his name was Boaz, he was like, oh, yeah, I've heard all about her and how honorable and noble she has been to her mother-in-law. He said, listen, give her water if she needs it. Let her glean wherever she wants. Pull out a little extra, wheat, barley, grain, and drop it for her so that she can have it, and let her be with our people who are harvesting. Then he actually goes up and talks to Ruth, and he says, hey, stay in my field, stay with my ladies who are harvesting and working all day, and my men will pull water for you and just rest with us. And when we eat meals, you can eat with us, but don't go somewhere else because they may not treat you well. Which, it could have happened. She was in the field, and you never know. And he was like, you'll be safe here in my field. So she went home with all of this grain and barley, and Naomi was like, oh my goodness, where did you go today? How do you have all of this? It's not normal to bring that much home when you're gleaning. And she said, well, there was this guy, and he told me to stay in his field. His name was Boaz. And Naomi goes, oh, Boaz, I think he's related to my husband. He might be one of our kinsman redeemers, but listen, just go back to his field and keep doing what he's saying. So I think at this moment, Naomi might have had just a little bit of hope. Just a little bit was starting to spark in her, like maybe my life is not going to be as terrible as I think, right? She's got just a little bit of a hope. And Ruth goes back, and for the entire harvesting season, she works in Boaz's field. Well, it gets to the end, and they're winnowing the grain, and they're getting everything ready, probably to take it to market. And she goes home, and Naomi says, listen, tonight, after they're done threshing the grain, there's like a big party, they're going to eat. Boaz is going to have something to eat and drink. When he is in a good mood and he lays down to rest, I want you to bathe, put on nice clothes, put on some perfume, and go lay at his feet, but don't let anyone see you. So this is kind of the signal like, hey, would you be my husband because you're my closest kinsman redeemer? So basically, Naomi is asking Ruth, will you go do this? And you know what? Ruth said, yeah, I'll do what you asked me to do. So Ruth goes that night. She lays at Boaz's feet. He wakes up in the middle of the night, and he's like, oh my goodness, who's there? When she explains what's going on, he's like, all right. He said, I will redeem you, but there is one other man closer than me that I have to offer the land to first. But if he doesn't take it, I'll do it. So Ruth goes home. She tells Naomi, and Naomi's like, all right, just wait. This man will not rest until it's settled today. So she knew Boaz was going to do something today. Boaz goes down to the city gates. He asks the other guy, the other relative, the other cousin, hey, there's some land. Naomi's selling her husband's land. Do you want it? The guy was like, yeah, I want it. And Boaz says, well, when you take the land, you'll also get Ruth, the daughter-in-law. And he was like, oh, no, I don't want that. So Boaz said, I will redeem the land and I will redeem Ruth. It's kind of a cool story because Boaz was a wealthy landowner. He was super kind. He was in a position to help out both Ruth and Naomi, and he chose to do that. Now, this seems like a really sweet story, but it gets even sweeter because after Ruth and Boaz get married, they have a little baby. And the end of the book shows Naomi holding this baby and the women all around her in town, all of the ones she said, hey, my life is bitter. My life is over. God has forsaken me and I have nothing left. She's holding this baby and the ladies are saying, praise to Naomi and this baby. He will take care of her. She has a son again. It's such a beautiful, beautiful picture. And if you like Old Testament history, this son ended up being the grandfather of King David, who, ended up being in Jesus' lineage. So Naomi, Ruth, Boaz, all of these people are ancestors in Jesus' line. And their son was the father of Jesse, and Jesse was the father of King David. So I just love how God said, I'm not done yet. I'm not done with your story. Naomi thought God was done when her husband died and her boys died. She thought, I'm just going to be destitute. I'm going to die a poor homeless woman. And God had something completely different planned for her life, something amazing that she could not even have imagined. So I just want to encourage you today, if you're in that place where you are like, everything stinks right now. 2020 has not been an amazing year for me. I want to encourage you that if it's not good, God's not done. If we look here in Romans 8:28, we find that Paul says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. God promises us that even in the crappy things, he can bring good about if we let him. In Isaiah, God talks about bringing beauty from ashes. God's in the business of turning things around and making really rough, tough situations amazing. Doesn't mean it's going to happen right away. But he does promise that he'll bring good to those who love him. He can take tough situations and bring good. So here's what I want to encourage you with. If your situation isn't good, hang on, because God's not done yet. Have an amazing day.
Hey, thanks, Ann Milam. What an awesome talk. What an awesome word to center our hearts on today as we go into the week. Hey, God is doing something here and you're a part of it. We want as many people to be navigated to God. And so if you can, like and subscribe and also share this to your feed so that more and more people can hear what Jesus is doing. We love you guys and we'll see you tomorrow.